what time this is done tonight. I might be able to go upstairs and get that done. Because I gotta look at all the.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, July 30th, 2024 Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Marquardt?
Here.
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Barella?
Here.
And I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to have a public hearing to discuss and have public comment and consider approval of an animal control ordinance 24-02. And the way this is going to work tonight, if you want to say something, make sure you sign in on the sheet. You get 3 minutes to speak. And we're going to take notes of everybody's comments, and then we're going to have another meeting of the committee because there's so many changes that there's no way we can vote on this tonight. So that's how that's going to work. So do we have the sign-in sheet?
I just gave it to you.
And I would just like to comment too. So this was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And it's because we have to respect private property, cultural differences, and yet still try to protect our animals with health and overpopulation. So just know that all of those, when the committee met, all of those are intent to not take away the way that our culture is, to protect our dogs, and it's a fine wire that we're treading on. So that some of the things in here that we didn't change, it is for that reason.
Commissioners, did we want to limit comments to 3 minutes, or since this is like the meeting before that?
Do we need to put some limit so we're not here till 9 o'clock tonight, or you know how this goes?
We could, I think, for the normal unscheduled, like 3 minutes is appropriate, but for something like this, I would say maybe 10 minutes should be the cap.
Okay, we'll do that. I'm good with that. Okay, Randall Van Vleck.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Randall Van Vleck. I'm an attorney. Please don't hold that against me. I'm a good guy attorney. I've represented municipalities and counties my entire career. I'm currently in private practice representing several municipalities and counties. But today I'm here on behalf of Best Friends Animal Society. And Madam Chair, Commissioner Barella, what you said, it resonates. Ms. Van Cavage, you heard from next, and I have written dozens of these ordinances, and we know exactly what you went through and what you're going through. And I have to say, looking at this document, it is a very good edit. I mean, I think it's a very well-written, comprehensive edit, and it does respect the various players and stakeholders in this endeavor. And so I personally commend you for a very, very good start. I do have a few suggestions. That's what we're here for.
Okay.
And I have them in my chicken scratch here, but I'm certainly willing to make them available, put them in part of the as part of the record, send them to your county attorney, whatever it takes. But
Okay.
I can probably sum up. I don't want to take up a whole lot of your time, but my concerns are concerns that I think if you take my advice and follow through, will save you money in the long run. And I think that's, you'll probably find out that, animal services, animal welfare is not an inexpensive proposition. It can be very costly. And so a few of the suggestions I have hit right to that point, that we're gonna try to save the county money on the implementation of the ordinance. So I'm going to start at the very beginning and very basic. And it starts, and everything, any lawyer will tell you, the devil's in the details and the devil's in the definitions. And, if you don't have the right definitions, or if you have definitions that don't work, then everything else goes a kilter. And so that's what I wanted to focus at least part of my time on, is your definitions, which I think with a little bit of tweaking could save you money. And the first definition I'm going to focus in on is the definition of animal. It encompasses virtually any hot-blooded, warm-blooded mammal. And so when we talk about animals, and as animal is used throughout your code, it's going to implicate certain triggers, some certain triggers by your animal services officers, or by your shelters, or by your law enforcement. And so when you have such a broad definition, it inherently costs you more money because you're going to be responding potentially to calls for services with respect to wildlife, deer, raccoons, possums, things, animals of that nature. So one of the things I would suggest is that you tighten up that definition. Tighten up that definition, or as one of the suggestions that has been made by best friends in the draft we sent you, or the comments we made, add some more specific definitions. So specific definitions such as domestic animal or companion animal. And then follow through with those definitions and be consistent throughout the document. So if you really want an animal to be treated in a certain way, then use that definition. But if it's really a situation where you want that animal treated differently because it's a pet or a companion animal, then use that definition and follow that definition through your entire code. And so I think just that simple fix alone is going to better define the duties and responsibilities of the people who are trying to enforce and administer the code, number one. And number two, it will allow you to save money because you're not using your precious resources on animals that are really outside of your jurisdiction. So for me, that's probably the most important area of concern, an area that you should be looking at, is how we're going to define animal and how we're maybe going to further define animals so that it suits your purposes. The second thing is also very similar in nature, and that is, lawyers, we speak lawyer, and so we know what these terms mean. But the general public, there's a lot of adjectives in your code, that lawyers can define. It's kind of like, we know it when we see it, but we can't really define it. Terms like frequently, repeatedly, substantially, excessively, prolonged, to lawyers, it's kind of reasonable. We kind of know what those mean. We kind of work our way around it. But for members of the public, for people who are actually trying to enforce and administer your ordinance, it becomes sometimes troublesome. Because what does it mean to excessively bark? What does it mean to substantially affect, someone's property values or property rights? And so when we talk and use those types of terms, from my perspective, as a drafter of dozens of these, it helps if we define what those terms mean. Excessively may mean to bark continuously for a period of 10 minutes or more. So if you firm up and tighten up those kind of, descriptors, I think, again, in the long run, at the end of the day, when you're trying to enforce and administer this code, you'll have a lot less trouble doing so. Because ultimately, worst case scenario, this is going to land in front of a judge. And so we have to be able to explain to that judge how this individual violated our law, or how this individual permitted their animal to violate our law. And if we can't describe in particularity what it was that they did and prove that beyond a reasonable doubt, then our animal regulations and animal ordinances don't really serve us very well. So, from my perspective, those are the two largest and biggest areas that I would look at. And I liked what you did, but I saw that the term animal, domestic animal, they were sprinkled out throughout your code. And I think we just need to make sure that that's what we want. Do we want animals treated this way? Do we want companion animals treated differently? Do we want domestic animals treated differently? And what is a domestic animal? It could be a dog or a cat. It could be a cow or a pig. You know, is an animal livestock? When is an animal not livestock? Those are the types of definitions, I think, that really we need to tighten up in order to save you a lot of heartburn down the line and a lot of money at the end of the day. Now, there's several other, kind of technical things. I'll just kind of briefly touch on some of them that I think from a drafting perspective might help. One of the things that the statute or your ordinance was kind of inconsistent in is some places it parroted state law, some places it didn't. I think it would be a good idea, in some places it simply just cross-referenced state law. So I think you need to make a decision how you want to do that. Do you want to have it parrot state law throughout, or simply do a cross-reference to state law? My suggestion is, even though it makes your document longer, is that you include it in the body of your ordinance, simply because now most people are using an electronic version of this, and it's hard to bookmark and look forward or bookmark and look back. If it's in the body of your ordinance, it's there, and they can read what it means. And so I think that is, and I'm old school guy. I mean, as you can see, I'm a paper guy. So this electronic stuff, particularly when I have to jump back and forth and look up statutes and go from Otero County ordinance to state statute, it's for me it's difficult. So I would make a decision one way or the other. The other area I wanted to talk about is in section 6 of the ordinance, and that's the section where it empowers your animal services officers, or community services, I can't remember. Community services officers to go onto property, to seize animals from an individual's property. We have to be mindful always of the Fourth Amendment, and when and under what circumstances our governmental officials have the authority and the capacity to go onto private property and seize personal property. And so there are some areas in section 6-1 and 6-2 which I think implicate to some extent Fourth Amendment concerns that at least your county attorney should review those, make sure that those are consistent with his view and his understanding of the Fourth Amendment. And finally, and then I'll wrap up and answer any questions if you have them, is section 8.2. That's a section that was repealed. And that section dealt with the process that you had originally to revoke permits. And so essentially, as I read the draft, unless there's a new one that I got, the one I got today is different, you struck out the provisions for revoking a permit, and you struck out the provisions for appealing the revocation of a permit. And it seems to me, if you're going to issue permits, then you need to have a provision for a procedure for how you're going to revoke those permits, which affords that individual due process. And secondly, that individual should have an appeal right. And so how you structure that is up to you, but I think it's important that if you have those types of permits, you have this type of procedure. Now, my reading of the ordinance was there was only one permit in your entire ordinance, and that was the intact animal permit. I didn't see a hobby breeder's permit. I didn't, unless that's in your zoning code, it might be. But the only permit I saw was for the intact animals. So, just a suggestion on how to deal with that, because there will come a time where someone has an intact animal not following the rules, and you're going to be faced with, what do we do about that? So those are my comments, and I certainly stand for any questions from the commission if you have any this time.
You have anything?
Maybe. Is your phone number in your book?
Oh yeah, I wanted to say that the book you have in front of you is a collaborative effort between Best Friends Animal Society and the International Municipal Lawyers Association. I'm actually here on behalf of both of them. I'm working for Best Friends as a consultant, and I'm on the board of directors of IMLA. This book was a collaboration of articles by different experts in the field, kind of a guide to help you, develop better and more comprehensive policies. And that's from Leedy, who you'll hear from next.
Okay, but I can get a hold of you at this number on the top of this, right?
Yes.
And I have his phone number and email, and we briefly discussed including them in some of the committee meetings going forward, which I think could be helpful. I agree with a lot of the suggestions, so, you know, it's a good point about the cat leash law. Like, I think there's sufficient deterrent in Otero County that you would just get made fun of if you were walking a cat on with a leash, but, you know.
I try to walk my cat and she will not cooperate, whatever, I can tell you. But, you know, I'm here to help. Ms. Van Cabbage, who you talk to next, hear from next, we're both here to help you.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
I appreciate it.
Letty?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I appreciate you allowing me to be here. My name is Leedy Van Cabbage, and I have been with Best Friends for 15 years. Before that, I was with the ASPCA for 9 years. So I've been working in animal law for about 30 years, so I am very old. That's why I'm the senior legislative attorney for Best Friends. So anyway, I want to thank you. I think it's a great first attempt because, as the Commissioner noted, animal issues are hard, and you have really good people working at your shelter. You have good community services officers, so we want you to empower them and give them the discretion. You know, we'd prefer to keep the animals in the home if it's a good home, rather than bringing them into the shelter at the county's expense. So, you know, any officers that can return animals in the field and give maybe warnings, citations, and instead of bringing them to the shelter, that would be wonderful. Again, we don't like leash laws for cats because they're silly. You know? I mean, they just are, and they don't work. But one of the things that did strike me is a lot of counties and cities now are trying to crack down on the nuisance calls that are really one neighborhood crank complaining endlessly because really it's not about the animal, but they don't like the junk car in somebody's yard, so they keep calling about their animal. So a lot of the counties now are requiring 2 unrelated households to complain before they send an officer out. And so that way, you know, and your county is huge. I mean, you've got a really big county. And so if you required 2 people to complain that were unrelated before sending your CSO out, then at least it's probably a well-founded complaint. So again, we would encourage you to give your officers discretion, the animal shelter workers discretion. Loretta I've heard wonderful things about her. I know Desiree from Best Friends has been working with her. And again, Best Friends is committed to trying to get as many shelters as we can in New Mexico, up to saving 90% of the animals that come into their shelter. But we can't do it without good policies, and that's where you come in. So again, anything we can do to help, we appreciate it. And again, we're here to help, so thank you. And I won't be as wordy as Randy was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And all of your comments are in green.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And again, I apologize because I was trying to get that done very quickly. So
Okay.
some of them are, you know, I would love to clarify them when I get a chance.
Okay, thank you.
Loretta Burks, or Birch?
I really didn't have a lot to say, I just come in support, and I'm sorry I signed that paper by accident because I thought it was a sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay, all right.
Awesome.
Awesome, okay, thank you. Okay, Birdie?
Hello.
Hello.
I've been volunteering for Forever Homes Rescue since they began. And let me tell you, I'm tired. I'm tired of the county being overpopulated, the city shelter, Tularosa. We pull from everywhere. I brought our stats, if you guys would like one, of what we've done and where we pull from and what we ship out to Colorado, we ship out to Albuquerque, we ship out to Wisconsin, Indiana, Oregon, and we just can't catch up. So I think we need a strict spay and neuter law. We could kill every dog in the county shelters and the city shelters, and they'll be full in 2 weeks. You know, it's sickening too that we have to put down so many good dogs. The city has 10 puppies. The county, God knows how many puppies they have. 69 puppies.
Wow.
And it's crazy. We can't build our way out of this situation. We need strict spay and neuter laws. And if this county would do it, maybe, you know, I was hoping that since Alamogordo, Tully, Cloudcroft, and Mescalero, and Chaparral fall in the county, well, they have to abide by your rules, but apparently that doesn't work that way.
No.
Nope.
I know, and it sucks. And I've tried with the city, and Alicia's tried with the city, but we're tired. We're having to beg for money to help because the vets don't give us a break on spay and neuter. We go all the way to Tier C so we can get a good deal. So we can, because everything that leaves our facility is fixed and up to date on shots and medically cleared. And right now, we have, oh gosh, we got about 20 dogs. We always have about 20 dogs. But we did a big shipment out Saturday to Colorado, and everything that enters Colorado has to be fixed. So Dog Breath, they can't afford to fix everything that leaves their shelter, transport, unless, I don't know where they could take them, because everybody's got strict spay and neuter laws. And if you guys could do it, maybe the city will follow you and push the state. Because we're tired. I'm tired of putting down perfectly good dogs. We're never gonna hit that no-kill shelter because we have puppies galore. I mean, Kitty City has really done good on our cats, you know, because they have that TNR program and they get grants and we hustle. So I really, really wish you guys would really push that law, strict spay and neuter. It doesn't matter. They're, you know, these backyard breeders are killing us. I just picked up 2 dogs that somebody got kicked out of their house and they left their 2 puppies. Sick, they got diarrhea, they haven't had shots. It's sad.
I know that our fee structure isn't in here, and maybe we should add that just so we have it for discussion for the next meeting. But what we tried to do in the fee structure is the only way that we did the intact permit is to make it more expensive to get the dog out of the pound with an intact permit versus get it out with being fixed. And to try and make sure we fix spay and neuter everything.
The county has a voucher for getting their dogs fixed. There was a lady that donated to Becky Washburn in Capitan because she was the only one that would give her a deal on the spay and neuter. So anybody that had an EBT card could get free spay and neuter. I don't know if it's still going on, but you know, there's programs out there for these people to do it. And if they reach out to us, we help them, you know. I tell them $50 and they can catch the bus and we'll take them to Tier C. And we'll swallow the rest if it's, you know, but, okay, that's all I have to say. Strict spay and neuter.
And we welcome suggestions on ways to accomplish that. The challenge is enforcement, and the attorney just noted, is, you know, the Fourth Amendment exists, and our officers can't just go in people's house, from house to house, looking between the dog's legs. And so it's a matter of setting up the contact that we have when we can verify whether they've been fixed or not, and then what mechanisms are in place to do that, and incentivization and doing things where we can cover the cost and make that known, and education are some of the biggest ways to make this successful. But absolutely open if there's specific suggestions on how we can put something in this ordinance that will help accomplish that goal. But these are the challenges we run into.
And one thing I'd like to add, Otero County is a very unique county. And you can ask our animal shelter director, probably, and at one time I did ask her, and she told me 80% of the dogs that she housed in her house comes from Chaparral. So it's 70 miles away. Probably of those 80% of the dogs, 40% of those dog owners, or 50% of the dog owners, however you want to say it, if they come up here to try to get their dog back and they go through customs, they're not going back either. So now, what I'm going to ask is, what percentage of the Chaparral dogs ever get claimed? Less than 10%?
No, actually, we've had an uptake recently, but yeah, I would say on the average, probably 50% of the chaparral dogs.
They get,
No, I'm sorry, misunderstood you. Of the reclaim of the chaparral dogs, about 25% of them. Of what comes up from chaparral, about 25 have been getting reclaimed. We've had an uptake recently, and I'd say we're probably at a good reclaim rate right now with the chaparral dogs of about 50 to 60%. But that may be a short time frame, and I don't know what's going on, but we have had a lot of people coming up from chaparral getting their dogs lately.
that's good. We are really trying to get a facility in Chaparral that we can stop a lot of this. If we can take them to there, house them, maybe the people will come, 70 miles, well, it's 70 miles one way, so it's 140 miles, so it's hard for them to come. So we're kind of unique, maybe we're not unique, I think we're unique, but it's a challenge in that set of mind right there. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Chuck, Andreas?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hello.
Good to see you guys again. I gotta say a couple things, a couple comments. First of all, it's sad that you guys have to go through all this work, all this paperwork to make codes and ordinances for something that should come natural. People should have a natural concern for their animals they have in their care. God gave these animals for us to take care of. And, it's sad, but people are, it's just a chicken. Well, that chicken is an animal, it has a life. It's just a dog or a cat. They mean something to us. They should. And because all these problems we have with the spade and neutering, I'm all for it. And it needs to be done because it's a serious problem. Which reminds me, you guys put in here sterilization. I'm all for it, but I just found something out because we recently adopted a dog, an Akita, and she's absolutely fantastic. But anyways, we had her sterilized, and then a couple weeks after, she started wetting and having leaks, urine, when she woke up in the morning. And I did some research on this, and a lot of people don't know this. Up to 30% of the large breed females may become incontinents. So you have to do something about that. So we talked to our vet extensively about this. And he said, I said, can't you just leave the ovaries, take the uterus out? They can't become pregnant then. And he said, well, they may have to worry about mammalian cancer. Well, that's only like a 5 or 10% risk. But you got a 30% risk of having them become incontinence. I'd take my chances with the cancer. So I just thought to make that publicly known that there's alternatives to full sterilization when they remove everything. So if they leave the ovaries, you still have the hormones, but they can't become impregnated. And they still maintain their balance because the hormones mean everything to the animal. So I appreciate all the work you guys have done on this. It's extensive. And the other thing was, and I appreciate the restraint. All dogs must be kept under immediate control. And it says, meaning any animal under the immediate control of the responsible person on a leash or a lead. Right after we got our dog out of surgery, we were taking her out walking in the desert, and we had her on a leash, and because she can be an aggressive dog. And in the desert, I've never run anybody in the desert before who's walking their dog unleashed and happened to be a pit bull. And they saw each other, and it was like, here it goes. I knew it was coming. My wife was with me. And the dog just took off running towards us. And it was, for me, I was prepared, I could see it happening. And so I choked up on my dog, I grabbed her by the collar and held her up, picked her up, and she weighs almost 70 pounds. So I just lifted up her front end so I could control her, and kept me between her and the pit bull. The pit bull had a collar on it, but it broke off or fell off, and it was a shock collar. That went to pieces in just a couple of seconds. The shocking did not work. And it was pretty intense. And I just kept the dog, the pit bull was concentrating on my dog, not me. And so if I kept my dog away from that dog, he couldn't get it. So it worked out. My wife was screaming, the guy was freaking out. And I was hoping I didn't have to shoot it. But it didn't come to that. He was able to grab his dog. And, we had a conversation, but, it was scary for my wife and for the individual. And it could have been bad. So if he had tethered that dog, that would not have been an issue. He did not have control. He thought he did with a shock collar, and that's not enough. That's not a physical restraint. So I appreciate you guys putting that in there, making that in here. So thank you for what you guys are doing. This is extensive, and it's amazing amount of time people are putting in this, and I appreciate you guys doing this and the community coming together like this and making this publicly known, because it's an issue. We should all be caring about our fellow animals or critters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys have anything else you want to discuss, or we're gonna just take these notes, and then the committee's gonna have another meeting, kind of put it all together, and then we'll have to have another meeting to vote on it when it gets all sorted out?
Yep.
Okay.
I would definitely like to invite them to our next working meeting, and I still need to read through your suggestions too, and just kind of put everything together.
Okay, does anybody have anything else on the animal control ordinance? If not, we'll move on to new business.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. The rest of it's budget, so you can go eat your supper.
Now we're down to the fun stuff.
Yeah, you're out of here.
Get on with your budget.
Yeah,
Give a lot of money to the shelter.
yeah. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Commissioners, could we take a look at item number 3
Sure.
first before
Sure.
number 2?
Okay. All right, request approval of resolution number 7-30-24/112-112-68, fiscal year 2024 fourth quarter financial statements.
This is an item that's normally just on the consent agenda. I guess the biggest thing I want you to take a look at is the ending cash column. It's the third column from the right. At the bottom, ending cash reconciles with the beginning cash of our FY
Are we looking
'25
at
budget.
this?
Yes.
This one? Okay.
So the agenda item number 2. And that's the biggest thing, is we need to make sure that our ending cash as of June 30th reconciles with the beginning cash we have for July 1st. And it does.
It does? Okay. Yay.
Which one?
Looking at this
We
one.
actually did have,
Final budget is what you're looking at?
Yeah, this is the,
what's that?
You're looking at the final budget balance?
No,
And
we're looking at
comparing
the
the-
fourth quarter, 2024 quarter ending June 30th.
right here. Yeah,
Okay.
this one.
And then we're comparing it with the,
We're comparing it with the beginning
got it.
cash on the one for the fiscal year '25 budget. So that's going to be the very first column on the first numerical column, I should say, with dollars in it. For FY '24, we did have more revenue than expense, which is always good.
That is always good.
And you'll see there's a column that's marked payables, receivables. Those are essentially accounts payable, accounts receivable. We did have, at the end of June, for example, the grant funds also dispatch, because the city is paying for a portion, 1.2 million of the '24 budget. we had a lot of outstanding payments. So what happens at June 30th is we have to borrow money for those departments. We borrow it from the general fund to cover their negative cash balance essentially. And then as soon as we receive those payments, which we've actually received the one from the city now, they're completely paid for fiscal year '24 for the dispatch center. That was a lot of money, so I'm glad that money came in. So once we receive those funds for the different grants that were outstanding, then we pay back the general fund. So the ending balance for the general fund, you'll see, is 7.4 million, but there was actually about another 1.5 million that we had to lend to other departments, including, the legislative appropriations, the CDBG grant, and then also the TBRDA dispatch. Those are the largest ones.
So you're telling me that on the general fund, we're 4.5 million in the hole?
No, that's
What
the
is it?
restricted cash. What that is 25% of our overall total expenditures. We have to keep that in reserve. So what I'm doing is I'm subtracting that from the ending cash balance to get an unrestricted cash balance. And that money it basically just sits there, we can't really use it. Honestly, I think the reason that DFA makes you do it is just to ensure that you're not gonna go in the hole with any of with your general fund or your road fund. Your road fund also has a restricted cash requirement, but road fund, the requirement is only 1 month. So you'll see also on the road fund, it was $365,000, so their ending unrestricted cash was $445,000.
So we're in the black. We are not in the
Yes.
red.
Yes, we are. And, yeah, I was taking a look at the '24 balances and ending cash, and, I mean, everyone's mostly concerned with the general fund, because that's where most of our expenditures seem to come from, really, other than, the grant funds. But it was actually pretty similar. FY '24, we had $7.9 million ending cash, but then we had to lend about $1 million to other departments. So it was about 8.9 million total, not including any, restricted cash. So for FY '25, if you take that ending cash balance that we have, 7.4, and you add back the 1.5 that we had to lend to other funds, it's about 8.6 million. So we're pretty close to last year. Things just are getting more expensive. It's more difficult all the time to have to reconcile things and ensure that we're spending wisely. But we have another successful year done, so that's a good thing.
That is a
Thank you.
good thing,
Thank
yes.
you so much for all this hard work.
Yes, it is a lot of work.
About a month or two ago, you was worried we're in the hole and in big trouble.
What's that?
About a month or two ago, you were worried that we were in the
I
hole
was
and
a
in
little
big trouble.
concerned. It's always, a little unnerving to know what exactly our ending cash balances are gonna be. The payment in lieu of taxes, the PILT, actually came in at a fair amount more. It was about 4.1 million. I was expecting about 3.7 or 3.8, so that's always good. And that always comes literally like the last week of the month, so I'm always sweating it. It's like, are we gonna get that, $3.5 million? And we always do. It always comes in, so.
So that's good. How much do we usually get from the SRS? Do you know, kind of right off the top of your
So
head?
on that one, that's the Fund 176, like 47,000 is what we received in '24. Around, a little under 50,000 is what we get there. Now, that's specifically for the Firewise program. There's also a portion of that money that goes to the road fund.
Okay,
And I don't recall, I think that was probably, the road fund gets quite a bit more.
okay.
I want to say it was a couple 100,000.
And we have no idea what this year the cannabis is gonna,
Cannabis is kind of stabilized. We're getting about maybe 50, 60,000, I think. Let me find that one here.
Need more
Yeah,
dispensaries.
yeah, 'cause we had,
Yeah, that's what we need. Like, we
So,
need more
yeah, the
cats and
revenue from that
dogs.
is pretty much stabilized. The thing that surprised me was the actual opioid abatement fund. We received like $1.3 million late in the year that
I saw that, that was nice.
yeah. And I think there's another email that just came out. I haven't had a chance to
There's
look at it
more
yet.
coming.
Yeah, there should be some more coming. It's, you know, there was original documentation put out that, you know, gave us an idea of what we're to expect. But it seems like there's agreements that are happening with additional companies that's ongoing. And so we get these little bits and pieces of it, and it's good. Of course, that money can only be used for, you know, for specific things, but we've got quite a bit there that we could definitely use for, you know,
And I am working with Nina at the detention center about using some of those funds for our MAP program, for some of the treatments of those that come in that are addicted. So we are looking into that. RB and I were just having a sidebar discussion about making sure he's gonna check we can use that for those injections and medications.
So, our little road repair fund that we put in here, which one is it?
that's actually in the road fund. So what we're doing is we're taking a portion of that 3/16%, and we are essentially moving, it's like $62,500 a month, or $250,000. Actually, no, that was for 4 months. It's a total of $750,000 per year. So we're taking $750,000 of the revenue from the 3/16%. We're moving that to the road fund, and I have an actual line that's, it's an expense line called flood control ditch crew. And so as of the beginning of FY '25, I have a budget in there of $1,250,000, because we started receiving revenue in March, so that was 4 months, so that was $250,000. So that was the beginning balance in there, and then we're adding another well, actually, it's $1 million, I'm sorry. We're adding another $750,000 in FY '25. So there's $1 million expense budget there, and there's the offsetting revenue for that as well. So that's where that's going. And then I also you're not gonna see it on the fourth quarter financials, but there's another fund that we opened. It's Fund 121, and I think I have a typo on the end of that, but it's the housing program fund that Commissioner Barella had asked for, $500,000 of interest revenue from the general fund to be moved into another fund to be used for potential housing projects. So I have budgeted for that. It's Fund 121, that is on there. And the only thing that I have not done yet is it's gonna take a little bit of time. I'm gonna need to speak with the treasurer and make sure that we have everything set up properly. But for the lodger's tax, we're gonna need to create a new fund for that and make sure that we have the correct calculation and formula for how to set aside this certain portion that can be used for, that has to be used for the marketing, and then the other portion that can be used for other things. So, but that will be set up, since that's not starting until January. I figure we have a little bit of time to get that set up.
So, back to the flood issue fund that we did, Tom realizes that it's not tied into his fund, that money's not.
It is in his fund.
Well, I realize that, but that money's not for him to go buy, or go play, or go buy a
That
chip
money
seal
will be
or something like that.
anything that is spent out of that fund, or out of that particular line item, I think needs your approval. It is in his fund, just because that was the easiest way to handle it. I didn't really want to set up a whole separate fund for that, because the personnel and everything is going to be, once we do get it in place, all of those expenses are going to hit the road fund. I didn't want to have it as a separate fund that would just create more accounting nightmares. So, but there is I don't remember the specific line item, I can look it up. That specific line item, I mean, I'll see when things come through to be purchased out of that line, and I'll know whether or not you have approved them. And I think Tom knows that he can't just go and spend the money. It's something that's going to need to be approved.
As long as it's ear tagged somehow to where he knows that money is for
Specifically
that
for,
program.
yes. I've talked to him about it. He does know that.
Okay. I'm not saying he would, but.
Right. I
Sure
think there's
be
enough of us who
tempting.
know about it that we kind of, keep an eye on that.
Do you have any more discussion?
Now, I know that we talked about, the animal control going to Chaparral, and that's kind of on hold until we figure out the sheriff's extension office and all that kind of stuff. But are we saving money in preparation for that anywhere?
I don't have any numbers on that. The only thing that we did do on the final budget is we didn't approve any positions for Chaparral yet because, we don't have a facility down there yet for them, but we did approve one additional full-time and part-time animal control, or not animal control, I'm sorry, animal shelter staff members. So I was going to budget something for that, but then I was kind of told that we should just hold on because until we knew what that was going to cost down there, I really have no way of,
The project is so large, not only in size, but in cost. We're gonna have to phase it, and the sheriff's department would most likely be phase one. So we're looking at the road department part later, and then the animal shelter portion later. So it won't be anything we do in this next fiscal year.
And then potentially having a little bitty shelter out there by the jail for the detainees to take care of animals. Would that be any part of that rehabilitation program that you're working on?
No. There is no place on that facility to build that or put that. And I would have to check with the warden, because the processing center, they can't. Those inmates, those
I mean, the
detainees
actual
can't.
Jail, not the prison.
Oh, you mean out here? Oh, no, we can't build a facility out there in addition without approval because of the deed restrictions. And no, there's no plan for that right now. Baby steps.
I don't know what that means.
I know, we talked about it yesterday on another issue.
All right, do we have any more discussion? Are we ready to vote?
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Julianne, we
know.
couldn't do this without you.
No, big job. And that Army band was really good the other night. That was
It's-
fun, but I
it's
missed you
a
up
lot
there.
of work, but honestly, I enjoy it. I enjoy the reconciliation and the process, but sometimes it's just, things get pushed off until the last minute due to unforeseen circumstances, and it makes it a little more difficult, so.
I'm sorry that happened.
That's, it's all right. I got it done.
She got happy face balloons in her
I'm
office.
happy
I know,
because
that's
it's
right.
like,
I don't
I
blame
got
her.
it done and I can submit it tomorrow, so that's wonderful.
I think we need a margarita machine in there instead of happy balloons after all this. Okay. All right, I make a motion to request approval of resolution number 7-30-24/113-01, fiscal year 2025 final budget.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And number 3, request approval of resolution number 7-30-24/112-112-68, fiscal year 2024 fourth quarter financial statements. Second it.
I'm gonna make a second on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, does anybody have anything else?
Yes. I don't know how to really approach it. I realize a big delay in this came from the treasurer's office not being there. I realize she's an elected official. What grounds do we have? I'm hoping she didn't do this intentionally. I really hope that put it behind like this, but we still have to have a treasurer for Otero County working, and a deputy treasurer. So, do we need to have it on an agenda item for the next meeting to talk with them about it?
That's probably the only thing you can do. I have no authority over an elected official. You have authority over an elected official's budget.
I know, and I can't really tell him anything to do, but
Did
would-
they say why it was so late?
I would like to just make one comment, actually, in the treasurer's defense. The fourth quarter financial statements and the final budget are really the only times that we actually have to have a resolution. So we're a little more pressed for time because we've got to make sure that it gets on the agenda with a certain amount of, time in advance. Whereas the other quarters, and actually even the interim budget, we're not required to even present it to the commission or have a resolution, believe it or not. But I always do because, I want you to know what's going on. So I think in her defense, she probably wasn't thinking about the fact that I had to get a resolution approved, which means it had to be on a commission, agenda at a certain time in order to be submitted by the 31st. That's the only thing that I can think of. I haven't actually spoken with her about that, but it was a little bit frustrating for me, so.
I don't know if it was, I'm not saying it was intended, what I'm wondering is, was it just happened to be a coincidence? She was off on vacation when that time come, I don't wanna see it happen to you again, but I don't know how to handle it. I think our attorney should talk to him.
I can do that.
Well, I will have one more quarter end, September quarter end, but that's not gonna require a resolution. It's just a quarterly financial statement, it's not budget. The one I'm probably more concerned about is December, because January 1st, we'll have a new treasurer who is, very intelligent, but he's not gonna know the processes of that office. And I don't know that there is going to be, or that there is any sort of a continuity manual or anything. I don't know if they're planning on training the two employees that they have to do some of the things that they do, because I know there are some things that they do that they're the only ones who do it. The other two girls do not have access or do not know anything about it. So a new treasurer coming in is not going to have anyone to help him. I only know a very small amount of how they handle things over there. I just know the interaction that I have with the month end. Their financials or their accounting software is, it's a different program, which you know that. It's a different program than ours, and we have to crosswalk in between because there's no interface. And it might be a simple process, and I'll definitely be willing to work, with a new treasurer to explain my side of things and try and understand more how they do things. But I'm just concerned that there's not going to be any sort of, there's no overlap. There may not be any sort of additional training for the other girls. That's my concern.
It's a valid concern. There's no mandated transition or turnover process other than a final accounting. And unfortunately, there was contentious, it was a contentious election, and so I don't know that there will be goodwill and friendly handoff. I hope there is for the bigger picture, but it is a concern.
I was kind of joking about you talking to him, but I don't know if one of us talked to him, I know what they're gonna say first thing out of their mouth is, you can't tell me what to do type thing, and that's gonna be the attitude. But if you sit down and have a heart-to-heart with them, and maybe if Julianne goes, I don't know. I do have concerns about it because the county still has to operate.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to, go see what occurred and talk about the way forward. Is just to have a conversation and then go from there. Any number of things could have been why it occurred. So.
Yeah, and I really don't think intentionally that's why I'm wondering if it was just a coincidence, but you just said another one, January 1, could be a big bombshell, so maybe I'm making more out of it than what it is. Not in her world.
It's a big deal in my world, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any association of counties, treasurers, affiliation that's before the end of the year that all the new elected get sent to for training?
They do Better Informed Public Officials Conference. I believe you attended it when you were newly elected, so they do offer that every year. We do try to make sure the new incoming elected officials are aware of it, and we can register them for that if they're interested. How much do the treasurers actually learn that attend that? I don't know. I've attended for commissioners only.
I believe that both of them are going to be going to a conference next week. It might be their affiliate conference. Of course, at this time, it's too late to get the new treasurer to attend that. But usually, from what I understand, the affiliates, the treasurer's affiliate has some good trainings a lot of times at their conferences. They'll bring in speakers and people from the software companies that are most frequently used amongst the state to give training sessions. And I don't know if there's going to be another affiliate conference. I know they do them several times a year. It's possible there'll be another one before January 1st. I don't know. I don't know their schedule. But that's something we could look up and see if we could maybe send the new treasurer to. I don't see that that would be a problem. I don't know, would that be a problem to send? Because I know that the regular elected official training happens before January 1st, correct? Yeah.
And I know that we are authorized to spend money and pay for that, for the newly elected officials, for that specific conference.
Okay.
I don't know, we'd have to check with NMC if they even welcome those to be elected officials to come to those affiliate meetings. We'd have to look into it.
I've got a board meeting Thursday and Friday in Clovis. I'll ask them about it and ask them how that's handled if they've. Yeah.
And so in the statute, it only says that they're required to balance and have it complete when the transition takes place. It doesn't say, the statute doesn't refer to any kind of training or handoff or anything like that. Just, here you go, here's the keys.
At least not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Nope. Anything else? You good? All right, with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give us a thought.
Okay.